Good morning. We are going to be doing a science lesson today on symbiosis. Would you say symbiosis? Might sound familiar to you somewhat because of a Greek word that we just learned a couple weeks ago, syn, which means with, together. So symbiosis comes from also a Greek word bio, meaning life. And we're going to take a look at what that is in a community when there are two organisms that really need each other and they work together in some way. So I'm going to go over to our Bright Thinker account, and this is a good opportunity also for you all to see how to find the science book. That is one of the science books that we use over here in third grade science. Actually, let me switch over to student app so that you can see what it looks like for you. So in ecosystems, it's ecosystems reader. We did not have one of these for animals, but we do have one for our whole ecosystems unit. If you click on this and then the link, it's going to take you to a new tab over here, which says Ecosystems Delta Science Content Readers. Okay, today we're going to flip over to pages 14 and 15. You are welcome to look at this book anytime you want, so that if maybe you've watched this video but you're still confused about something or wanted to look at it again, you can just go to that one spot that I showed you and you can see any part of the book. Okay. So symbiosis, sim meaning with, together, bio meaning life. Now, organisms of two different species sometimes have a special relationship. The relationship helps one or both of the organisms meet its needs. This kind of relationship is known as symbiosis. Say symbiosis again. The word of the lesson. Symbiosis. Now, one kind of symbiotic, that's using it as an adjective, relationship helps both organisms. So, which one helps both? Now, a cleaner shrimp eats bacteria and dead skin from the teeth and body of a fish. So, a shrimp is helping out the fish by cleaning it up, eating off bacteria and dead skin. Now, the cleaner shrimp gets food when it comes through and eats off of the fish, and the fish stays clean. So it works out well for both the shrimp and the fish. A second kind of symbiotic relationship helps one organism and does not affect the other. So one organism actually gets help, the other one is not really impacted by it at all or affected by it. An orchid plant might grow high in a rainforest tree. The orchid is able to get sunlight because it's helped by that tree. The tree is not helped, but it's also not harmed. Now, a third kind of symbiotic relationship helps one organism, but actually harms the other. Some wasps lay their eggs on caterpillars. When the eggs hatch, the young wasps eat the caterpillar. This helps the wasps by getting food, but it kills the caterpillar. So that's that last type of symbiotic relationship. Here is the cleaner shrimp on a fish eating like bacteria off the shrimp and everything and getting food, so it helps both. There's a picture of the orchid growing up through a tree. You're going to be watching this video going through some of the details in more examples of those three types of symbiotic relationships. Okay, now similar to those relationships between two organisms in symbiosis, it's helping at least one of the organisms. With competition, though, we've got relationships that are, like you might think, fighting or competing against one another. Now, a kind of struggle can happen among living things that share the same resources. So imagine that there are 2 or 3 different species in the same ecosystem that are all trying to eat the same animals. Okay? Maybe it's mice that snakes are trying to eat, but also maybe some larger mammals are also trying to eat them, a kind of struggle happens. For example, bears and birds eat from the same berry patch. Now, berries will not just grow infinitely. So at some point, there is an ending to that supply, that resource that they're eating from. The struggle for resources is called competition. Organisms often, and so think of like competition in a game, there's only one first place, for example. So it's multiple people all fighting for only one first place that can be won. Organisms often compete for things such as food and water. Competition can take place among members of the same species, or competition can happen among different species that are all trying to get that same food and water, or shelter even. The number of living things in an ecosystem depends on the amount of resources. Sometimes there are plenty of resources, so there's not much competition. Populations might continue to grow, but when populations get larger, there's more competition. This can make populations stop growing or start to get smaller. So the giraffes down here show an example of competition. They compete with one another for the same leaves to eat. Eventually, leaves would run out if the population of giraffes got larger and the number of trees never changed. They compete for other kinds of animals, with other kinds of animals for food as well. Okay, so let's reflect on our reading. It says, make a concept web like the one on page 8. That's from a few days ago. We won't do that. But if you wanted to take a look at page 8, what that is like. Oops, sorry about that. With a main idea and some supporting details is what it was talking about. You could do that for keeping track about ideas about consumers. And then think about some resources from nature that we might use today. So what are some food items, for example, and possibly water that you might have to in some ways compete against others for? It says to write them in your science notebook. You could, but you don't have to do that. And give examples of both non-living and living resources. Okay, and for that one, it probably doesn't make as much sense to talk about it with competition, but just resources in general, just like all organisms, we have some resources that we need on a regular basis. Okay, so you have another video to watch on symbiosis to hear some other examples of those 3 types of symbiotic relationships. One where both are helped, like the shrimp and the fish. One where one is helped, the other one isn't affected, like the orchid and the tree. And then one where one is helped, the other one is actually hurt, like the caterpillar that ends up being killed by the wasps. Okay, I hope that you are enjoying science and you will have, just a moment, let me check. No notes today. You will have some notes to take on symbiosis tomorrow though. Talk to you later. Bye.